This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett, and today we're breaking down some of the weapons in the new Call of Duty Black Ops 7. This thing caught me by surprise.
Oh dear. Yeah, me too. What the hell is going on here? To see that put into a video game is the single most interesting thing you've shown me this session.
It's like a burst 3-barrel minigun?
Oh god, it's a minigun sniper rifle.
Yeah. Be sure to check out our new merch, including our one-shot collection and our very own limited edition Christmas sweater. We're launching something very exciting next week, our month of Christmas. Multiple special episodes shot in person at the Royal Armouries, focusing on some of the weird and wonderful weapons from across games and movies. Kicking off with hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades.
Ah, okay. I like the little celebration there.
This is the carry handle.
That's very good. Is there a functional limit to how many you can put on there?
Only limited by your creativity, I feel.
And yet you've stopped at 6?
Yeah, well, I'd say we stopped there. Chris, would you fetch something from under the tree, please?
Oh dear.
If you don't want to wait until next week though, that episode and its extended edition is available over on our Patreon right now. Link to both our store and our Patreon will be in the description below, but now, without further ado, I'll throw it over to Jonathan.
Ooh, I guess my issues with this thing start with the name. What does carbon 57? I'm guessing 57 is a reference to 5.7.
Yeah, since it's, a P90 but sideways.
A sideways P90, yeah. It's got some suitable sci-fi lines to it. I'm trying to think why you would do a P90 but sideways, but I guess why not? Caltech have done their 5.7 things, but then they're not really trying to get into the military market, which in theory this is.
I love the little shrug of no ammo left, like, what are you going to do?
Oh, yeah. So he taps the empty magazine and goes, Maybe we need a straight-up comedy Call of Duty entry at this point.
This ain't far off that.
I don't know if it's more anime or cyberpunk anime vibe to this gun. I think the bit that I just straight up I'm not happy with is the butt area, which, because it kind of, it is a bull. Well, is it a bullpup? Is it technically a bullpup?
Is the P90 a bullpup?
Oh yeah, P90 definitely is, because it's feeding well behind the breech face. Not so clear on this one. Regardless.
Oh, the trigger is ahead of of where the magazine is actually feeding, so...
The trigger is, yes, but that's not my definition. The problem with using that definition is that suddenly 80% of handguns become bullpups. It's fine if you just define them as shoulder weapons, which is probably what we should have done, actually. But instead, for my Big Boys Book of British Bullpups, I came up with something that relates to the grip area. Like if more than 50% of the grip is in front of the breech face, then that's a bullpup. And that rules out the vast majority of pistols. Self-loading pistol, or actually revolvers as well, if they're weird shaped, could fall into the definition when meaningfully they're not, because the overall length hasn't been reduced. That's kind of the difficulty you come into with this definition stuff. Regardless of that, and this is kind of fine. I think they've taken a bit of inspiration from the VHS2 with its adjustable butt, which is pretty unusual, if not unique, for a bullpup, because bullpups normally you've got rid of the buttstock assembly and you're stuck with whatever length the receiver is. And if you want to lengthen that, you're going to add weight and bulk and length unnecessarily. So what HS product did was have a spring-loaded butt where you press a catch and it pops out to the full length. And it certainly suits me on the shorter length, but it may have been a military requirement for trials, I don't know. What that ends up with is what looks like a separate butt assembly, because it kind of is, which you don't normally get on a bullpup, you normally just get a butt plate. This thing looks a bit like that, but it isn't very VHS2 apart from that. Everything is pretty conventional. We've got what appear to be M-lock slots, we've got a 12 o'clock full-length Picatinny rail, given that this is, 10 years in the future? If anything, this thing is too sci-fi, but then who knows? knows? People who are pushing boundaries like Keltec come out with stuff every couple of years that's pretty wacky looking. So it's certainly not impossible that someone would do this. But for me, the aesthetics would be, let's say this has to come out sometime in the next 5-10 years, obviously. The market is going to be pretty stunned by the radical shape of this thing. This looks more like something from 20 to 50 years. Who knows? This is a real, thumb in the air. Thumb in the air? Finger in the air.
I was just trying to think of, a logical reason of why you might mount a P90 style magazine on the side, because the way they remove the magazine as well, it just feels like it's more at risk of coming loose when you don't want your magazine to fall out.
Hard agree, as they say. Yes, the P90 might still be wacky, but it's a very secure, positive arrangement for that magazine. It's not going anywhere. If it slips out of your grasp, it's probably just going to stay where it is, or you might be able to have time to catch it. With this thing, I can't see it. The thing it hasn't sort of in its favor, if you're right-handed, is you can easily see how much ammunition you have left. Of course, if you're not right-handed, you're screwed, because it's on the opposite side of the gun and you'd have to flip it over to check. But then we do flipping for checking whether the chamber is empty or whatever. I suppose we're 10 years into the future of the timeline of the game, not of our own timeline, and we've already got stuff in 2025 COD world that's more advanced looking than what we have now, so we can't be too strict on that.
Enemy inside.
Next up is a very sci-fi looking pump action shotgun. This looks like, I like the design as a piece of art, but the actual kind of, if you were just showing me this, I think it was a Halo game, is I guess where I'm going with this ramble, especially the big animated round counter.
Well, it's got some sci-fi functionality as well. If you hold down the trigger, something within the weapon charges up. You can see the meters on the side of the ammo counter charging. That tightens the spread. So if you just tap shot it, it's a broad spread. If you charge up, it brings that buckshot more into the center.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that in a Call of Duty game. That makes it feel even more pure sci-fi. As to whether you need a round cap, now I'm terrible at math, but I have 10 fingers and thumbs, included thumbs. Even I can count to 8. I don't think you need a round counter on a shotgun. Not the shotgun with a capacity this small. I mean, arguably, you don't need a round counter for this purpose on anything for various reasons. People have come up with them. There's a back plate for a Glock that does it, or a modified Glock, I should say. Modified slide assembly. But it's really just for funsies. It's not for any practical purpose. The brass on those cartridges looked like the case head was rifled.
Yes. Yeah. They are indeed.
What? Why you do this? Is that just a visual indicator that the projectile inside is a rifled slug? I hope so. I hope they're not saying that. I hope we're not firing 60% more bullet per bullet here.
Well, the buckshot has that piece of rifled metal on it as well.
Oh.
And I just noticed that when you're loading the weapon with slugs, the shells are green, but when they are ejected, when you pump the weapon, they are red, but also very traditional looking.
Really? Oh, how did I miss that? Let me go back.
So they've lost the rifling. I mean, they're very blurry even when I've freeze framed it. So they've lost the rifling.
And colour. I'm afraid we're nearing the Beavis and Butthead thing of let us count the ways in which this sucks.
Cursed Gun fans, you can now wear your favourite design with our new one-shot collection. Each shirt features a singular cursed gun on the chest, the EXP logo on the back, and we've added 2 more brand new cursed firearms to the collection. These new designs will also appear on our mugs and our new cursed posters. We've also got our very own limited edition Christmas sweater. Our artist Hat Legs has carefully adapted their cursed weapons into this festive all-over design. You can check out our entire selection of merchandise over at expvideo.info, but for now, I'll get back to the video.
Yeah, if in doubt and you want something sci-fi, give it a thumbhole stock.
There's a lot of thumbhole stocks in this game.
Not every single time, but very commonly, it seems like that's the way it's done. And that's kind of reflected back into reality with that Hera arms buttstock that I'm sure is based on the fact that sci-fi guns always have a thumbhole stock. It is like a very westernized Gucci version of a PP-19 Bison, isn't it, really? This uses a standard AK mag catch and hooks in at the front. It's clockwork. But this is really, I assume it's inspired by the Bison, although there are a couple of other helical magazine longitudinal setups. Not actually clear that this is, I don't think this is helical, no. So helical feed typically means a round profile to the mag because it's, well, a spiral feed. This looks like a straight double or more stack. So it's very, very distant to the Bison. Proportions-wise, I suppose it is similar, and it's a submachine gun. Now this mag has the sort of external profile of a helical type magazine, but you'll see when we change mags, we can see it's just stacks of rounds in the back with a feed tower sticking out the back. So it is a conventional magazine, but it has that pivoting sort of receptacle device, which always strikes me as a bad idea. It's only a pivoting guide, could be made to work, but why? Why not just have the magazine attached to the weapon like as a normal firearm?
I was trying to imagine the internals that would get that round into the...
That's my next question.
Into the weapon and back out again, because with the Bison, the rounds arranged helically, they're pointing out the top of it, whereas the rounds here are pointed towards the trigger. So you're going to have some gubbins in there to helter-skelter the rounds into place.
I'm focusing on the magazine itself, but a much bigger issue is the presentation. Talk about angle of presentation. We worry about that, whether it's just a slight difference. When it's coming in like this, and then just kind of... What would be funny is if it shot the rounds out intact sideways, or shot them straight up vertically out of the weapon. I don't know. Could be like a signalling submachine gun where you just shoot blanks out the top of it. I'm talking nonsense at this point. Yeah, well, we do have the issue that this is, as I say, this is a sequel to one of the other Black Ops is, which starts...
Yeah, they're very much playing on their own designs.
Is it Black Ops?
They're follow-ons from their original designs.
Yeah, so they've established their own branch timeline where people are getting way more creative with adopted military or security services type weapons. So we kind of have to give them that leeway of a sci-fi alternate timeline, I guess. All right, this seems like a throwback to the OICW. There was a fad in the late 90s, early 2000s for designing hybrid weapons. I guess it goes back to the spew in the 50s. Really, like the underbarrel grenade launcher concept, but more so. The problem is you can only have a long barrel on one of the weapons. Your explosive weapon and your kinetic weapon, so your grenade launcher and your rifle or carbine. OICW did it with a short barrel G36 variant, or became the XM8, giving you inferior ballistics, prioritizing the grenade launcher barrel length. Given how short grenade launcher barrels can be to achieve the same effect, it would make more sense to, take a 40mm grenade launcher and attach it to the bottom of the rifle, like we've been doing since 1968. But I mean, before that, really, the Carcano carbine with the grenade launcher on the side is... I've forgotten the date of it, but it's old. So they've borrowed from OSCW, I'm pretty sure. Maybe they're looking at the current precision grenadier system candidates as well, but those don't have onboard submachine guns or whatever this is carrying. The problem as ever with these tandem weapons is, think of Ripley taping a flamethrower to a pulse rifle, which already has a grenade launcher on it. That's a ton of weight and bulk. What it solves is the problem of the grenadier needing an adequate personal defense weapon, ideally a service rifle, but he can't carry both. Well, he could, but not ideal. And so they went for a somewhat slightly compromised short barrel carbine built into the weapon, but it makes that package really unwieldy, and we've moved away from that pretty definitively, actually. With the PGS program, they are just self-loading grenade launchers, and then we have parallel, actually, if we're looking at the American context, we have the M7, quite a heavy, bulky rifle, compared to an M4. And then your Grenadier, in theory, would have a heavy, bulky grenade launcher. So they are specialist weapons again.
That angle of magazine in the thumbhole stock obviously reads, to me at least, Vector, but this is Vector in rifle caliber.
I nearly mentioned Vector for the magazine feed angle, but and to be fair, that really is the only popularly known firearm that does that. So yeah, I think you're right. OICW meets Vector, but it doesn't have any room for the mechanism, the Super V bolt system. So in that respect, it's not. Then again, the Call of Duty Vector also doesn't have space for it.
So this is actually a kill streak called the Gravemaker.
I've seen it pop up and wondered what. I nearly asked you what it was.
It's basically the gun from a razor.
Yep. I'm here for that, I have to say. I know it's
underrated film. I'm into it.
I know it's daft. For 2035 in any timeline, that's very silly. But the fact that they've seen fit to incorporate it with the seeing people through walls and shooting people through walls, complete with the sort of railgun blue trace from a razor, it's pretty fun.
Chambered in 50 cal classified.
50 cal classified. If ever there was a hand wave, don't worry about it. It's classified.
Well, because you only get, I mean, really, the only way you can see the weapon is through the inspect view and the HUD icon. But is there some links in there? GM6 links?
I think you're right. Yeah, just big old anti-material thing. So the barrel is detachable because it's kind of stowed on your person, I guess. Not because you replaced the barrel for any kind of reload or anything.
Yeah, I think that's what they're getting at, and it's a little, flourish for when you call in the kill streak.
Fun, I like it. I'm just not sure it has a place in a Call of Duty game.
The footage I've got is with bots. When I was playing on the multiplayer, I did get tagged by it a couple of times, and it is quite annoying for someone to get enough kills and then you kill them and they just respawn with this wall hack delete from anywhere in the map gun.
It's very funny that someone has created for a first-person shooter a wall hack gun. Who feels like a troll?
Considering how annoyed people would get over like Predator missiles in like Modern Warfare 2 and how hard it was to dodge those, a left-click delete from anywhere on the map gun was a choice.
Gravemaker is a suitably silly name for it as well. I quite enjoy that too.
Dave Maker me mad.
Dave Maker. I shall now know this as the Dave Maker. I think more than anything I've seen so far, this is absolutely MCX. So our MCX Carbine here, which will fit on screen by retracting this stop, is a Virtus with a short barrel, and we have a couple of optics on this one. This is essentially a sort of police carbine model, so it's semi-auto, short barrel, sort of thing you'll see with a number of UK police services and the CTSFOs, the counter-terrorist equivalents. They went for these a while back. Folding, standard SIG folding, retracting butt stop, making it pretty small for stowing in a vehicle or whatever. They seem to be pretty well liked. Some hiccups early on, but that's what the Virtus was created to resolve, which is what this is. So everything is different on it, but if we give the same sort of view as I'm seeing, if you fitted a thumbhole stock to this, which is technically possible to do, I don't think anyone makes one, but you could, you've instantly got something much closer. The muzzle device actually looks more like a Scar one. Upper receiver is a completely different shape. The handguard is not the quite clever way of compromising between a monolithic upper that you can't then change, it's just one lump of metal, and what we've sort of gone back to on other weapons, which is a receiver that stops here and a handguard that mates up to it to give you your continuous rail, but is completely removable. What SIG chose to do is give you this outrigger section of rail all the way out to here. So that's very stable. So optics on there aren't going to go out of out of skew and give you return to zero problems. And that means only this bit is inadvisable for mounting optics, which is too far forward to mount optics anyway. So that's actually, I think that's a good bit of design on there. That's not carried over to this. This uses a conventional upper receiver that stops and a separate handguard. But I think the inspiration, like the vents on even the vents are reminiscent on the upper and lower. They've just changed the angle of them on the lower. They've literally flipped them facing the other way. We have similar cutouts up here around the gas system, but then, yeah, they've changed every little thing. Now, normally that would be a sort of blanket legal policy. In this case, I think it's just because they're using this as inspiration and making their own design entirely. And lots of little gold highlights. I think they're gold anyway. Copper. Rose gold. So this thing has what appears to be a fully integrated forward assist. Quite a controversial item. Almost, well, from the beginning, actually. US Air Force didn't want it. Eugene Stoner didn't want it. US Army did want it. And so it's on most AR derivatives, this being quite a distant AR derivative. It's more of an AR-18, really. It's drawing, in terms of ergonomics and function, from the 15 by default, because that's what actually saw service. 18 has not seen service. So, where I'm going with this is, on the Virtus, this is a replaceable unit. You can replace it with a blanking panel and not have it. Now that's only available from the factory, I believe, on the Rattler, but it is an option. And I think at least a couple of users have gone with just get rid of that forward assist. Now you can't do that if it's built into the upper receiver. You'd have to, well, you could specify just a different upper receiver, of course. Its presence on there, and the reason I'm wittering on about it, is all the other guns you've shown me are super sci-fi. This is less sci-fi. It's just another take on essentially a SIG MCX from a fictional company. I guess, yeah, why not? People are coming up with their own SCAR equivalents, their own MCX equivalents. That's plausible enough. For me, it feels at odds with the other guns in the game. But I guess I'm being hypocritical because I can't criticize all the other guns for being too sci-fi and then say that this isn't sci-fi enough. Why do both exist, I guess? Unless they're trying to imply a sort of transitional period where people are still making guns like MCXs, and then a few years later, they start making more wacky sci-fi stuff. I'm trying to sort of think this through, and I am thinking out loud, as I often do. So let's move on.
Does this place look familiar?
Yes, it does. I only noticed at the very end of the second time of viewing that, hilariously. That's so funny.
Call of Duty has, in private matches, you can load up a map that's just called green screen.
Oh, I saw something about green screen. Someone thought it was a mistake.
Yeah, I guess they've just done it so... Because people love to make thumbnails during the inspect animation, they've just enabled that to be a much faster process.
Oh, that's funny.
Letting you just key out the bright green. The first time I loaded it up, I accidentally loaded it up with bots, so I was just fighting in this green void. But that meant I could bring the Mark 15 Mod 0 into the Royal Armouries.
No, that's genius. I can't believe I literally missed. I was focusing on the gun, completely missed the background, and I nearly missed it the second time as well. Very funny. I haven't had enough coffee today, though. There is that. And then you have sort of cursified it a bit for me, haven't you? Bless you.
I don't know about that.
Now, that's a different stock, isn't it?
Different stock. Different everything.
Yeah, so the stock is actually quite reminiscent of the super lightweight MCX stock, which I think we have on a Rattler, which is like it's as light as it can be and doesn't slide, so that it's almost a minimalist approach, and this seems to be based on that with some changes to the lines. The pistol grip's very odd with its insertions, which look like they would trap dirt and crud and look pretty grim quite quickly. Guess they're riffing on these skeletonized grips, which were invented for real shooting, albeit, I guess, competition shooting for very, very light guns, and then got copied over into games for sort of tactical use. This is like a sci-fi version of that, where it's a solid grip but has inserts full of random voids. Now, this thing is fitted with an underbarrel launcher, which at the moment is a bit unfashionable. Standalone launchers are hot right now, but hey, maybe fashions will swing back the other way. Slightly weird approach to rocking we happen to have a magnifier here. So typically the way this is done is you come in with your support hand and rock it out the way. In this case, we're bringing in our other hand and doing, well, it's rocking the other way, but still, it's still a bit, rule of thumb, don't take your hand off the controls, the primary controls, so you've always got control of the weapon. All of this right-hand operating of stuff is very Cold War. Well, World War II, actually. Into the Cold War.
Thought I'd add another kill streak in here because I think we've talked about it before. Well, the real-world object that's inspired this kill streak.
Oh, amazing. Okay, definitely a fan of this. I mean, of the game version, let's say that. So this is not the Hellfire, the sword Hellfire, but it's very similar. It's absolutely over the top, isn't it? But yeah, for those of you who don't know, the CIA actually have one of these, or rather a Hellfire variant. I shouldn't be smirking while saying this, but that has sword blades that flick out. And the idea is, now this seems to have, is it me, or does that have an explosive effect as well?
It seems to have a small one. I don't know if that's just the effect of it landing, kicking up a lot of dust and mud and gore. But yeah, this is very much a single target weapon. Not like a Predator missile that has an area effect. It's for one opponent.
Which is the point of the real one. Yeah, so the idea is to limit collateral damage. There was a famous incident with a car that was penetrated from the top, as you would imagine, with a missile coming in. And you could see the cuts in the sheet metal where the blades had come through. And I think they found a blade as well later. And it was, I think it's believed that there's no explosive, so you're not risking fragmentation, blast damage, burning injuries even, for anyone who isn't the target, is the idea. Now, it's still not exactly health and safety approved in that big bits of missile and sword blade go flying, but if you're trying to not kill anyone other than the immediate target and anyone sitting next to them, well, that's why they've invented it. So to see that put into a video game is the single most interesting thing you've shown me this session. And that's not even really a criticism of the game, it's just they're the first people to do this. It's like the first time you saw the AC-130 night vision view and the different weapons coming in and doing the things that they do, and then every game started copying that. There will be people who see that and go, oh, ridiculous sci-fi nonsense. The missile body is not a design I recognise, but the concept is absolutely real. This feels like they really wanted the Becker from Vanguard, but sci-fi. Although that's a shotgun, but still. So for the sake of consistency and fairness, I am going to point out that I don't think any of the guns you show me, including this one, do the sci-fi gun with built-in iron sights thing, which, as I've said many times, doesn't make much sense to me. We've already got just backup iron sights. Plenty of users are not even running backup iron sights. Plenty are. And we're not far enough in the future that iron sights would be gone. So they've got that right, I would say. Unlike the Space M1 Garand. Now, will we ever see a return? Because the revolving rifle carbine gun is very, very old, as we know, 16th century. Are we ever going to see that come back? For anything other than sporting purposes, I can't see it. There's just not enough. You're limiting, you're keeping weight quite big because of the cylinder and the mechanism needed to deal with that, and the size of the frame needed to deal with that. You've got the cylinder gap to worry about, and you're not getting enough capacity. So for hunting, where maybe you're happy with 5 or 10 rounds, maybe, but this thing, no. Now this seems to be an auto revolver system using or unless that's cosmetic. I was going to say it looks like it has the zigzag cuts of a Fosbury or a Mauser zigzag, which is actually a different thing, but they can be used on the exterior to revolve the cylinder using the power of the cartridge. I don't think that's necessarily what's happening here though. They don't look the right shape or depth to be mechanical. They look more like stylish lightning cuts. So I'm not sure how this is functioning. It seems to function like an auto revolver, like a Mateba, where after you've fired, something is coming back and revolving the cylinder, but I don't see a mechanism for that.
Yeah, there's no external hammer or anything that adds into the mechanics of what people might expect to see in a revolver type weapon.
And nothing moving. Like you could have an internal hammer or striker Mateba style system, but you would still need the upper part of the gun to reciprocate to revolve the cylinder. So this looks almost like a pure double action trigger where you're literally just pulling through on the trigger each time.
Threat eliminated.
Almost ready.
This thing caught me by surprise.
Oh dear. Yeah, me too. What the hell is going on here? So we removed the barrel to reload again. This might be the third time I can remember seeing a game do that. So you have to cock it. Oh god, yeah. So they've been looking at some replaceable barrel, quick change barrel machine guns where you lock the bolt back, operate a catch, and the barrel comes off, and gone, what if the magazine was also part of the barrel?
And I think it fires, as far as I can tell, because it fires in burst. The burst will go top barrel, middle barrel, lower barrel, which is why it's got that big vertical muzzle.
I was going to ask about that. It almost looks like an integral suppressor that's just that blocky and big for internal volume purposes, but it's actually multiple barrels. Are they supposed to be superimposed loads in each barrel? Because how else are you feeding that thing?
Yeah, I think we're back to some Metal Storm inspiration.
I think that being the case, and okay, we're doing something different and a bit sci-fi, the tone should shift like it did on the real Metal Storm, certainly on the grenade launcher, where it's like the pitch was different. Like, the bloop sound of the grenade launcher rose in pitch as you fired the 3 rounds because there was more internal volume in the barrel.
It just feels like there's a lot of gun that isn't doing anything with this design. I like the design. I think it's a cool concept and very unique, but does there need to be that much gun if all of the gun bits are sort of contained in the magazine barrel assembly?
I guess there does, yeah, because all this can plausibly be is barrels with essentially the back half of the barrel being its own magazine. You'd still need some sort of contact points to ignite each barrel, or I guess however it's working, electronically presumably, passing a contact to the first round and then triggering the second, third, fourth, fifth in that stacked up bit. You'd still need your firing mechanism. Now, if it's electronic, it doesn't need a reciprocating bolt, so the bulk of the gun could be smaller. So I guess where I'm going with this is it probably ought to be a bullpup. So you've got a minimal grip frame buttstock assembly to just have something to put into your shoulder, against your cheek, something to grasp, something to press the trigger, any other controls you might need. To keep that small and light, you might want to go bullpup with it, especially given that the reload is problematic. You don't have to worry about ejection from left or right, like you do on a bullpup. If it's electronic, the trigger pull isn't an issue with the linkage rod. So this concept would do away with just about all the complaints about bullpups, although it would induce a whole new range of issues, I dare say, in reality. But certainly interesting. But yeah, there would be some empty space, I think, in the stock of this gun. Well, that looks a bit like the Gravemaker thing.
Similar setup with the magazine, eh?
But it's a bolt action.
Well, it has a massive bolt, but it fires in a very rapid 3-round burst out of 3 barrels.
Another Metal Storm thing, isn't it?
Well, the magazine does contain the rounds, so it's like a burst 3-barrel minigun.
Oh god, it's a minigun sniper rifle.
Yeah.
And it isn't a bolt action, it just has a gigantic bolt handle. Good luck running through any undergrowth with that thing. Oh, yeah, I mean, there's a reason why things like miniguns have spinning barrel clusters, because the benefit of the rate of fire far outweighs the problem of moving parts. If you are the person carrying this thing, like Command and Conquer man-portable minigun rifle style, obviously inspired itself by things like Predator, you've then got the problem of trying to keep that complex mechanism clean and free from obstructions. So really not a great practical design, let's say that. And the rounds, I was almost surprised when you removed the magazine and it just looked like 50 BMG standard brass, copper and lead ammunition.
These are apparently 760 by 51.
Are they?
Yeah.
Wow, the field of view
does
threw
look
me
off, though.
way off. Yeah.
I had to
cow.
find the markings to be sure, and they're on the magazine. But I like 3-round burst of 50 BMG, or I think one would be plenty. But if you do manage to hit a target with all 3 of these shots, it's technically a 1-shot kill, 3-shot kill.
It certainly has some impact, doesn't it?
Troops in contact.
Oh yeah. It can be a little tricky to use because you're sort of having to track your shots a little bit across the burst. I actually think 2 rounds might be enough to kill a target.
I kind of don't want to speculate too hard on how it's getting rounds from a conventional magazine into... Oh, there we go. Maybe. maybe they're the right proportions. I'd say they look a bit long to me. But yeah, thinking about, you're going to break your brain thinking about how that feeds. At least they've given it a ton of space in the receiver. It's quite bulky.
There is a few multi-barreled weapons in the game, and all of them could take a suppressor, but they all have unique suppressor designs. Like the suppressor on this thing is just a big sort of chunk of machined metal with 3 tubes through it, basically, because you'd have to do that. You're not going to thread 3 separate suppressors onto this thing. The double-barrel shotgun is the same, but it makes the weapon look even wackier.
So apart from trying to feed rounds from a double-stack magazine into 3 different chambers, 3 different chambers sequentially, I guess. That's one problem. The other is how we're rotating the barrels. Like, it's done on the modern Gatling pattern guns with electric motors. It seems like there isn't enough space for that here. You could use gas, you could tap gas off and use that to drive the barrels round, but I don't see any evidence of that. This is veering a bit close to sheer sci-fi fantasy design to me. Like, what is rotating the barrels? Why are we doing it that way? It's a pretty high rate of fire. You could just go for a very high rate of fire single barrel setup and mitigate the heat and recoil somehow. I suppose it by default mitigates recoil by being presumably incredibly heavy. It's a bit of fun, essentially. It's not really it's beyond criticism, except that for me, Call of Duty is not about science fiction weapons. No, it's not for me to decide.
We have something very cool to show you next week, so be sure to subscribe and come back then. But for now, thank you all for watching. Let us know what you thought of the video, and if you have any other ideas or suggestions for games, movies, TV shows, or beyond you'd like to see on the show, be sure to let us know in the comments. An absolutely massive shout out to all of our supporters over on the Patreon for helping to support EXP and for allowing us to make cool content like this. Links to support the Royal Armouries will also be in the description below, so be sure to head on over there and give those some support as well. But thank you again for watching. We'll be back very soon next week for, as I said, something very special. But until then, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting, all that good stuff, and we will see you real soon.
Enemy dropped.